Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark. And in this episode, I'm joined by co-hosts Phil Lindsey and Ray Dean. King Kong got nothing on me. You hear me? Notice I cleaned it up? There's two different versions of that slogan, that catchphrase, that soundbite. One of the most quotable movie lines in the history of cinema. A line that this guy in question ad-libbed on the spot. Wasn't in the script. Fun fact. Been quoted a million times if it's been quoted once. You know what you're in for. You see the title of what we're going to cover today. We're talking about Training Day. And I'm going to tell you something, kids. If you haven't seen Training Day, buckle up, hold on to something, because this movie is unforgiving. It is unforgiving. It's flat out to the wall. It takes no effing prisoners. I'm telling you, get ready if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it and it's been a while, say several years, here's my advice. Buckle up, hold on to something, and get ready. Because it's been a while since I've seen it. This movie smacked me in the mouth as if I'd never seen it. That's how long it's been. I'd actually forgotten the rough edges and how intense this film is and how uncomfortable this movie is to watch at any given time. But none of these are slights and none of these are criticisms, because this movie is effing great. And I can't wait to get into it. Let's kick this off, kids. Training Day is a 2001 American crime thriller film directed by Antoine Fuqua and directed by David Ayer. It stars the man himself, Denzel Washington, as Alonzo Harris, along with Ethan Hawke as Jake Hoyt, two LAPD narcotics officers over a 24-hour period in the gang-ridden neighborhoods of Westlake, Echo Park, and South Central Los Angeles. It also features an assorted cast of characters that we're going to get into here today. Distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures, released in the United States October 5th, 2001. Depending on when you hear this, you know we just had the anniversary of this film come around. So there you go. Running time, 122 minutes. The budget for this film was $45 million. This movie at the box office made nearly $105 million. And that is your rundown for Training Day. Phil, do I exaggerate when I say this movie will punch you straight in the mouth if you're not prepared for it? Because it is intense and everything else that I described in the opening of this show. What's your thoughts on Training Day, man?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the first time we ever saw Denzel play a villain. Mm-hmm. And it's such a shift for him in a lot of ways, especially for a lot of Black people. And so I remember seeing it the first time, and it's like, oh no, he's really like dirty. Like he's like a dirty cop. It's very jarring. I remember the first time my mom saw it. She was just like fully in tears. Like she was just like, because Denzel had this reputation at this point. Like Denzel was this kind of actor. And I mean, it not only goes to show like what Denzel represented going into this movie, but just a great job he did acting that he really made you hate him by the end.
That's a great story. It's like, you expect that story like at a pro wrestling event or something where the heel just gets you. Dude, Phil, he's full blown heel in this movie, man. There's no turning back for this guy.
Yeah. You definitely, like, at some point I thought that, he's gonna do something that shows you he's not that bad. Nope. just a full on dirty cop.
Full on dirty cop. No redemption, and no possibility. By the way, kids, bunch of spoilers in this here pod. If you haven't seen this movie yet, warning, earmuffs through the whole show. That's all I can tell you. Go watch the movie, then come listen to this. You'll be glad you did. We don't want to ruin it for you.
Have you not seen this movie in 2023? Like, how is that possible?
There's a bunch of youngins out there, Phil. A bunch of kids listening to this. Well, I don't know about listening to the show, but a bunch of kids running around out there that don't have life experience like we have, man. So That's what I'll go with. By the way, to really answer your question is dunderheads haven't seen this movie. People who don't care about cinema haven't seen this movie.
Yeah,
And it's the truth.
They only know of Training Day based off of the spinoff television show.
Ooh, we're going to get into that here today too. We'll talk about it. So, Ray, edgy, smash mouth, unrelenting, again, take no prisoners, pedal to the metal. This movie never lets up. You never get a chance to breathe. I'm taking all your thunder. Give me your thoughts on Training Day.
Well, to me, it's just really gritty, raw. And like Phil said, Denzel up to that point portrayed like this nice guy who's always looking to save the day, who's looking to make things better. He's the savior, so to speak. And he's just raw and nasty and mean. And I'm like, what am I watching? And the first time I saw it, I couldn't believe it. And again, like Phil, I thought, well, at some point he's going to see the light and he's going to turn. And he stayed in character and stayed evil the whole entire movie. And I was like, wow. Like, it's a side of him I just didn't think existed, because all the Denzel movies up to that point were complete opposites of this character. So it was unique. It was one of a kind. I think it's one of his best movies. And at the end of the day, if you haven't seen it, you've got to see it.
Ray, had you heard anything about this flick before you went to see it? So did you have any sort of preparation, any prep about what you were going to see from this guy, or did you go in not really knowing anything?
I went in thinking, honestly, that he was this edgy cop that, was like a vigilante trying to stop the bad guys. I never thought this angle that he took was going to be there. Like, it threw me off completely watching the movie, because I'm waiting for him to, like, okay, he's just acting right now. He's not really. And again, through the whole movie, he's like, no, I'm a villain and this is the way it is. And I was like, wow. It shocked me, because I just thought it was like the typical, cop movie. And, Denzel's gonna, be an undercover cop portraying like he's a bad guy and stopping all the bad guys. But no, he was one of the bad guys.
See, that was my thought as well from all the trailers we'd seen of this film, was that he was, okay, he's edgy, he's tough, but there'll be something that will explain it. Nothing explains it. There's nothing. If this character had any trauma as a kid that led him to make life choices, we never hear about it. Not that I can recall. So, like, this guy's bad for the sake of being bad. I mean, Phil, he blames a lot of this on the job. And it's almost like a chicken and egg situation, right? Like, are you bad because of the job, or do you have to be bad because of the job? Is the job bad because of what it is? Like, so many questions here, man. What do you think about that? Especially in stark contrast to, all the police killings that we've seen over the past 20 years, man, since this movie's been made, Phil. What do you think about that thought we've heard from a lot of cops out there, is that the job is so bad? This movie seems to take it one step forward than that.
Yeah, I think because he drops that line several times in the movie. To catch a sheep, you got to dress like a wolf. At some point, you're thinking like, oh, well, he's just putting on his persona to do his job. No, this is fully who he is, and I think that there's something to their idea that the job corrupted him and the job made him worse than he actually was. We do see things like that in something like The Wire, for example. Like, you see how corrupt the police were, and it wasn't just like the drug dealers were the main issue in the show. It was a systemic issue, and I could see that being an issue here as well. But you also got to be a certain kind of guy to do certain things that he did in this movie. So I do think some of it was a job, but I also think some of it was, that's just who he was.
Yeah, I mean, had Ethan Hawke's character been in this spot instead of the Alonzo character, and then fast forward 13 years, you would imagine he would not be this guy. You know what I mean? Like, because we don't think Ethan Hawke's character had it in him to go this far. And it turns out he didn't. So, Ray, looking at this, again, with all the unfortunate history that we've had in the past 20 years, which I believe, and look, I'm not speaking from a position of authority. I just, you know what you research and get into and watch and see from a distance, a great distance sometimes. But a lot of these things could be avoided. But like this movie, watching it now after all these years, it kind of put a different taste in my mouth, man. Did it do that for you too?
Yeah, it gave me a different perspective. It made me think more of like, wow, are other cops really like this? How much of a stretch is he really going
Mm.
in his character? Seeing some of the dealings and shadiness that was going on and setting up certain, people. I'm like, wow, I wonder if this is like a real way some of these cops really operate. It definitely made me think 100% because some of it just seemed too well acted. I'm like, this has to be something that someone brought to the table that's actually like unfortunately part of the whole environment, within the police, the matter, so to speak. So it was different.
I did find it interesting that we never saw his immediate boss. We didn't have an inspector like we had in the Beverly Hills Cop movies. Far cry from this film, right? But we didn't have an inspector yelling at him from behind a desk, Ray. It becomes a different movie if you have someone doing that, right? Because this movie feels very insulated. It's a 24-hour period. You never see anybody but these two guys and the people they interact with. You don't see anybody behind. Even when cops come to the scene of whatever, he never really interacts with anybody that has any sort of say-so over him, Ray. I thought that was an interesting decision to make with this movie.
Yeah, it looked like he was running the whole show by himself. And he had the guys that worked with him, but yeah, like, there was no head of command. There was no saying, hey, this has to run this way, and if you're going to do this, you got to get my okay. And no, it looked like he was the head authority figure, and it's kind of weird like that. It definitely wasn't Beverly Hills Cop at all.
No, yeah, for sure. So, Phil, you were talking about the huge difference between what we as moviegoers had known of this guy going into this film, and we need to illustrate the point because it needs to be said. The film before Training Day was a year prior was Remember the Titans. So if you can imagine the difference, you know what I mean? It's crazy, man.
Yeah, this is a guy that's done like, he's done like Preacher's Wife. He's done family movies. And like to see him like go and delve this deep, it was just like, wow.
And he hasn't really done anything like this since, well, he did American Gangster.
The American Gangster, I would say that he was very unlikable in Flight, but he's redeemed by the end of Flight.
True. Do you think, Phil, this is a well that he should go back into at some point, or do you think it just has to be the right script at the right time?
I think he plays a bad guy very good, just because he's a very good actor.
Yeah.
I thought he did a very good job here, but it does a part of me did dislike how much acclaim he got for this, because he had been a good actor for so long before this. And the fact that this was the thing that won him an Oscar has always been one of those things that I didn't really care for. And I don't think a lot of black people like it because it made us feel like, oh, well, he's got to show you that he's what you think of all of us to prove that he's a good actor. And I mean, he's but like I said, he's done so many other good roles before this. I mean, this guy's played Malcolm X. This guy has done all kinds of things before this, and this was the thing that some people think is his most memorable role. It's a little disheartening, but I can't hold that against him because he just did his job well. He did this role as perfectly as possible. Like at this point, I couldn't see anybody else in that role.
No, there's not no one, no one. Yeah, I mean that's how good he was. I mean, there's been plenty of actors that can play a heel like crazy, but Denzel's got the chops to play anything you need him to play, and I think that shows through here. I mean, Phil, do you think this Alonzo character is one dimensional? Do you think because from a distance it looks like he's just a one dimensional murderer, but like, do you think it's layered and with a lot of grit to this, or do you think he's too one dimensional at times?
No, I didn't think he was one dimensional at all. I mean, because at some points in the movie, you wanted to like this guy. He was very funny. He was very he seemed insightful at times. And then after a while, when you like put two and two together with certain things he's saying, like, no, this guy isn't insightful at all. He's just full of it. Like he's just saying things that sound great, but No, he's always got a motive. All of this has been a plan from the beginning, to get over on this guy.
Yeah. I mean, kids, this is not the first time we've covered Denzel and, well, the combination of Denzel and Antoine Fuqua, the director. We did The Equalizer. It's in the archives, as is the Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, by the way, kids, in case you were wondering. Man, Phil, they make a great team here, don't they?
They do. But yeah, I don't think that he's a one-dimensional character. I think that that's what makes this movie so compelling, is because he does do things that make him seem not one-dimensional. Like, I mean, even if you just look at all of his stuff with Eva Mendes' character and his son, yeah, it makes it puts him in a different light. When you see him like speaking Spanish and all these other things, it's like it feels like there's so many layers to the character that we did not get.
Yeah. So Ray, let's get you in trouble with your wife. Let's talk about how insanely drop dead, insanely attractive Miss Mendez is in this film. My God in heaven. Go ahead, Ray. You can have this.
You mean my ex-wife?
Yes.
Yes. Eva Mendes, my ex-wife? Yes. She was
Yes, of
beautiful
course.
in that movie. Yes, she was incredible in that movie. You know, we were in the middle of our divorce during that movie, and I said, you know, hey, you did a great job. You know, even though things aren't working out between us, say, you know, good luck with the movie. She was fantastic. You know, that whole side of him, like he said, was kind of unique. You know, he was like a real father, and he loved his son, and you could see it. I mean, it was a small little part, but you could feel it. And I was like, wow, it's beautiful. I was surprised that she actually did a nude scene. That was kind of like, wow, I didn't know she did that. I wasn't upset, but you know, I was just surprised. It didn't offend me. I was like, wow, put those clothes back on. I was more like, wow, okay.
You closed that laptop in a fit of rage. Don't lie.
Yeah, I was so upset. I was like, how dare you be naked on screen? This is horrible.
Nudity. What are you people? What's wrong with you people thinking? What are you doing to me?
Disgusting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it was just kind of like I said, unique. I will piggyback on what Phil said about him winning, you know, the award. Like, people were so enamored with him winning that and saying, "Wow, such a great role." I'm like, didn't you see Remember the Titans? I'm like, like I thought that movie was phenomenal, but it got nothing compared to that. And I was like, okay, I guess he's got to be a rotten scumbag for him to get it was weird. That I agree with. That was so weird because he had done some really good movies prior to that, and I didn't understand it either. Because I thought he was going to win it for Remember the Titans, and he didn't.
Well, it's an odd comparison, Phil, but you and I talked about this here before, that in that god-awful Daredevil movie that we don't speak of, because that's how bad it is, they cast Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin because the director is like, well, we have to cast someone that could believably hold his own against Matt Murdock. And I'm like, there's a number of white actors who are, you know, overweight that could conceivably do this. I didn't have a problem, and I've never had a problem with Duncan as an actor. But at the time, I'm talking to a friend when it came out, and I'm like, don't we all think it's a little bit of a problem that they cast the black man as the crime lord in this movie? Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, what are we saying here? But like, that didn't strike anyone as being off at the time, Phil. Sometimes it feels like there's just tone-deaf casting, man. I mean, is there any possibility, Phil, that maybe that's why he's not gone back to a role like this, or you think that even phases him?
No, because I mean, he's done other roles. Like I said, he's done American Gangster. He's done Flight. He's done other roles where he's kind of like the heel in the movie. But I do think that it was very interesting, the response to it. Just the fact that this was this was the one that got him the award as a leading man. Because, of course, he won Best Supporting Actor for Glory, correct?
I think you're right. Yeah. Sounds right.
But it just always felt like out of all of the things that he's done as a leading actor, like I said, Malcolm X and all of the stuff that he's done with Spike Lee and just so many other movies. This was the one that people feel like is his claim to fame. I've never really quite understood that, and I mean, he's been nominated for other things as a lead actor, but this was the one that he won for. I never really understood that.
He did win for Glory. He also won a Golden Globe for Glory as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Glory was in '89, so.
Yeah, I mean, he's been up for other things. I know he was nominated for Flight. I don't he lost, I think. But yeah, he's done tons of movies. This guy's had an incredible career. But for some people, this is the role that they know him best for better or worse, I guess.
He was nominated for Best Actor for Malcolm X, but
Yeah.
did not win. So let's get into this here. And by the way, I don't want to glaze over Ethan Hawke. We got to talk about Ethan for a minute. Ray, Ethan Hawke is. I don't think you can call Ethan Hawke underrated. I think people recognize how good this guy is and has always been, from a child actor up to this point and beyond. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. Ethan Hawke is the real deal. I mean, he can, much like Denzel, he can give you whatever you need. Whatever the script calls for, he can make that happen. I mean, he's multifaceted. He's versatile. I mean, this is a guy that look, not for nothing there, Ray, but he held his own on screen next to Denzel freaking Washington and more than covered, carried his part of the load. What'd you think about Ethan Hawke in this movie?
Ethan really held his own. Like, he was right on point. I think he stayed on par with Denzel the entire flick. I didn't feel like Denzel was carrying him at all. If anything, I felt like the two of them were on even keel. I felt like Ethan portrayed the innocent, naive cop who's looking to like make his way up the ranks. Like, he played his part perfect, and to his credit, like he sold me. Like, I believed his character 100%. And he doesn't get enough credit for that role, but he did, in my opinion, a fantastic job.
100% agreed. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor and did not win for this movie, but yeah, he deserves the accolades as well. So, Ray, in your opinion, and this doesn't have to be the case either way, but could these guys have switched places and it still wouldn't have been an effective movie, or would it just completely change the dynamic of this film, you think?
I think it would have changed the dynamic. I feel like he, in my opinion, doesn't have that edgy vibe that the other guy does. I feel there would have been a little lacking between the two of them. I don't know. Like, Denzel just really sold that heel, cop. I don't know. Like, the other one didn't come across just as aggressive. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I don't think it could. I think it had to go the other way. And it was good to see Denzel in a different light. Like, I like this new character with something different because, again, like we all said, when you hear Denzel up to that point, it's always, the savior, the nice guy, he's always trying to help people. And like I said, it was just nice to see a different spinoff to him in that respect.
Yeah, for sure. And he's, good actors, you salivate over the idea of playing a character like this. I mean, this character will probably never be forgotten, Phil. You know what I mean? Like in the pantheon of, classic movie characters, I don't think Alonzo will ever be forgotten. It's because of Denzel. That's really saying something.
Yeah, I agree. He did a great job. Ethan did a great job. Hoyt is also very important to this story. It's just funny. Every time I think of the movie, I think of him yelling at Jake when he's walking away with the money at the end. Just because every time I think of it, I just think, Jake! Jake!
That's desperation you heard in his voice because he knows what's about to happen to him.
Yeah, he knows it's all over. But no, Jake is such a great character. He's a complete opposite of Alonzo in the movie, and he comes in green. He comes in as a guy that is just trying to move up in rank, and he's really trying to learn things from this guy. That this entire movie is just basically like preparing this guy to just basically turn on him at some point. Either turn on him or try to make him like him. And I thought he did a great job. I don't know if you guys know this, but initially this role was going to go to Eminem.
What? Interesting.
Eminem was
I
up
did
for
not
the
know
role
that at all.
of
Really?
Jake Hoyt. And when you look at the rest of the movie, it makes sense because Snoop is in the movie, Dr. Dre is also in the movie, and yeah, Eminem was up for this role.
How do we feel about that? Because I know that Tobey Maguire was considered for the part, which again that changes the movie as well. What do we think about Eminem maybe getting that part, man?
I don't think it's the same movie. I don't think people are going to take Eminem as seriously as they took Ethan. I think Toby would have done a great job, but I don't think it's the same movie with Eminem.
Yeah, I agree. Toby was so close to playing this part that he actually followed undercover narcotics officers in LA for 2 months and gained weight for the role. But he was dropped when Ethan Hawke, Fuqua's first choice, was finally available for the shooting schedule.
Wow.
Yeah.
Toby,
I mean, his career just fizzled after that. Kid did nothing. I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
It's a shame, Ray, he never had a breakout role with that kid, Toby. He was going places and it got took away from him.
Yeah, he really got nothing after that. Like little bit parts here and there, but nothing major.
Yeah, no, nothing. God forbid. Yeah. Poor kid. What are we going to do here? Yeah. I assume kids, Mr. McGuire's doing just fine with the Spider-Man money that I'm sure he still has. So there you go. So let's talk about this story, gentlemen, and how insane this story is and how none of this is real and how this guy would never be to the point of power that he has achieved throughout this movie, except for the fact that he calls them the three wise men. All three of those dudes are completely black and corrupt as well. Just terrible people. And they're just letting him run rampant, and he's bad as well. I mean, Ray, at any point, is this too far out, or do you think it's grounded enough in the gritty, like Los Angeles, backdrop that you're okay with it?
It was pretty gritty. I mean, it was kind of weird that the three wise men they met in the restaurant. I was laughing because one of the wise men was the guy from the movie Major Leagues. So I was like, oh, is he going to pull a baseball out at some point during this movie?
Tom Berenger.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is the catcher. I'm like, okay. So that was weird. But other than that, yeah, I mean, like, they were very serious. It had like a lot of like a mob feel to it in the restaurant, and how he had to get the sign off for the head, and it was kind of weird. Like that spinoff, that whole vibe, and how things was completely did a 180 was kind of unique. I did like it though. I mean, it made me feel like he had someone to report to rather than like an agent. At least he had to, before he could, go on this kill, he had to get sign off from somebody, which at least made it somewhat realistic.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, if you live in LA during, you don't really have any hope, man, because Alonzo's out there and these three dudes at this table are out there and like, good luck to you. Like, I mean, whew, man, no mercy, Phil, no mercy. And like the story, kids, as it goes, is like, what does it feel like the weekend before Alonzo screwed over somebody, like a Russian, and then that's where we get to this point in the film, right?
Yeah. Didn't he kill someone? He killed someone. He killed someone that was connected, or like a maid guy or something.
Yeah, he killed him or beat the crap out of him. How come I can't remember that now?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I thought he killed him. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I thought he killed him. But so yeah, he killed somebody connected to Russian mob, and of course, like, as Smiley says, this someone was a someone, and it comes back on Alonzo, and so he has to get the money, where they're gonna kill him by midnight. And so the thing that's very telling to me, not just about Alonzo, but Jake's character, is Jake is the only character in the movie that's a cop that wanted to do the right thing. Everybody else was just like, no, I'm in. Everybody in Alonzo's crew was like, I'm in. I'm good with it. The wise men that he talked to, they were all older cops. The guy that I'm gonna try to blank on Jake's friend, not Jake's friend, Alonzo's friend that he talks to at the beginning of the movie, and then he comes back and takes his money. He was an ex-cop.
Yeah, he was.
He was an ex-cop, and so it just feels like everybody was in on the take of, yeah, it's just a job, and I'm just using this as a way to get by. But if something comes along that's a lick, then I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, we were talking about Well, we weren't. I was mentioning that Daredevil movie that we don't like to talk about, that I promise we'll never mention again.
Yeah.
But the guy you just mentioned was Scott Glenn, who played Stick in the Daredevil series on Netflix.
Roger, that was his name.
Yeah.
The guy with the X-Clap. Roger.
Yeah. Yeah. Scott Glenn is great, kids, by the way. Effing great. I mean, dude, the cast in this movie, Ray, is top notch, dude. Not just the top two guys, but, you know, you've also got Dr. Dre in this film, Snoop Dogg is in this film, Macy Gray's in this film, Eva Mendes, as we said. I mean, this is an all-star cast here, man, isn't it?
You got like stars among stars. Snoop was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was weird seeing Dre play a cop, but then when he was a crooked cop, I was like, okay. You know, at that point he was like hardcore into the gangster rap, so it kind of fit. But yeah, I mean, you had a great cast, and the whole setup to kill Roger was like, wow, okay, no one has a problem with this. They just want their piece of the pie, and it was like, okay, no problem. It was like a regular Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, man, didn't bat an eye. I mean, he played Blue. There's a character here named Blue that Snoop Dogg played. A far cry from the award-winning performance as Huggy Bear in 2004 Starsky and Hutch. I mean, yeah. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, he fit right in. He was great. I mean, very convincing. I wasn't really put off. If I was put off by anybody, it was Dre, and it was nothing he did necessarily wrong. Like, you think you see Snoop Dogg in a movie, you're like, oh, it's Snoop Dogg, but he did well, and I didn't really see Snoop Dogg after a minute. But like, every time I saw Dre, I'm like, that's Dr. Dre. I know who that is. Like, I couldn't help myself. So I don't know, man. After seeing this movie, it makes me, long for the times of filling up an all-star cast. I mean, we still see it from time to time, but I don't know if we see it to this extent. I mean, this movie could have been fun-filled if not for all the cold-blooded, blatant murder. So this movie's heavy, kids. I'm telling you, if you've never seen this, again, we tried to warn you, but it's so worth seeing. It's such a good flick. What do we think, Phil, about the way the characters interact in this movie? I mean, you've got, Alonzo's crew that's with him. Those guys are ride and die through the whole flick, man. They're totally on board with him. I mean, he's not just down the rabbit hole of probably never coming back, but so are his crew. What do we think about the other characters in this film here?
I think they do a really good job of, like, giving you an idea of just LAPD and just a day-to-day. But I mean, most of the movie is Denzel and Ethan in the car. And I think that they have such a good chemistry and a good repertoire that it pretty much makes the movie. Because, like I said, you're just following those two characters from place to place from the entire movie. And so if you can't buy into their relationship, then the movie just doesn't work.
Good point. Yeah. Well said. And, going through the pacing of this with it being all in one day, I mean, Phil, that really adds to the story here, doesn't it? Doesn't that just add to the overall effect that, when we see night, it's at the end of the film because we've gone through an entire day, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it has a very kind of Pulp Fiction feel in that all of these things are linked together. Like, of course, like the interaction with Smiley and the Latinos at the card game, of course, are linked to the attempted rape scene earlier in the movie. It has this feeling like all of this stuff is like one crazy day where everything is somehow connected. And
the Latinos at the table, Phil, were they? You know where I'm getting at? Was it too much? Was it just right? What's your thoughts on that?
No. I mean, of course, like, yeah, I don't want to say that it was stereotypical, but I thought that those scenes were also interesting because just like the entire movie, you're sitting there watching them talk to him, and it's like, all right, man, you have this uneasy feeling the entire time, and I'm just like, I remember the first time I was just like, Jake, get out of there, like, and like when he turns around and he looks out the window and sees Alonzo's car is gone, it's just like, oh, he got him.
He sent him there to die, right? Wasn't that the plan?
Yeah, and so he's talking to him the whole time, and then Smiley's talking to him, and he's like, you got a gun, right? And he's like, does it look like this? And he holds it up, and it's his gun.
Yeah.
Very uneasy scene to watch, but the build to him realizing what happened is just so good. But I think that that's just kind of what they did for the entire movie. They did this really good job of building up tension to the climax of the movie. And it's so many scenes are like that where it's just like, what's really happening here? What do we not know?
And this was Alonzo's plan from the beginning. Ray, did you know, could you figure out that there was one too many coincidences? Did you realize that he had this kid set up from the beginning of the movie till the end?
It was midway through that I was like, wow, this is really going bad. He's setting him up for something major.
Really? Oh, okay.
I felt something was wrong, like, when he got him high. How they went to Macy Gray's house with the Chinese menu as a warrant.
I want to see that warrant.
I want to see that warrant. That was hysterical. And then when they're at the cards and he's like, have you ever had your stuff pushed in?
God, that's uncomfortable just listening to the dialogue of that scene,
like,
man.
Whoa. And then next thing you know, Alonzo's gone. And I'm like, oh, God, Jake, you're dead. I was like, this is it. I was like, that was crazy. That was crazy.
It's credit to Denzel that I actually believed he was truly trying to break in Ethan Hawke, and that was never the case, Phil. Never the case.
Never, ever the case. And I sometimes go back and forth on, do I believe that, if Ethan would have went along with it, was he just going to try and use him as a patsy? Maybe he didn't always plan to try and kill him, but he was setting him up from the beginning to be either a patsy or something.
Yeah. And again, I don't, Ray, you got it long before I did, and Phil, apparently you did too, but I just don't know that the first time around, I don't think I remember getting it. I think I really truly thought he was, which that was the goal. It worked. That was the goal of the direction of the film was, we want the audience to believe this. So when you see his car gone, then you go, oh crap. Well, guess what? It worked. Worked on me. They got me.
When I immediately realized, like, oh yeah, Denzel is the bad guy of this movie, when his crew was coming together and he's talking to them, and Dr. Dre is there, and freaking Peter Green is sitting next to him. I was like, yep, that's it. Peter Green is always a bad guy. He's never a good guy in any movie he's in. Always a bad guy. Denzel is on the wrong side. This is Peter Green. He's the bad guy in The Mask. He was the bad guy in Blue Streak. He's always a bad guy. He's never a good guy.
That's true.
I thought he was definitely going evil when he gave him the drugs, and he was like, if you want to be a real cop, you got to try this, you got to do this. And I was like, okay, Denzel's just this edgy cop that's trying to do the right thing. But then as they're driving off, Ethan's stoned out of his mind, and Denzel's like, I've never smoked. That's you. You're the one that got wet. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh no, this is it.
Yeah, he makes a point to tell him he had never done it before. My God. Yeah, because he thought it was just weed, but it wasn't weed. PCP laced, right? So, holy Lord.
To get wet.
I instantly thought of Wayne Brady on the Chappelle Show when he said that to Dave, remember?
Yeah, that's of course, that's a parody of the Training Day scene.
Yes.
Classic episode of Chappelle's Show.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's kind of the same idea that everybody always thought that Wayne Brady is this goody two shoes, and he does this like it's just like this Breaking Bad moment in the show, and it's just like nobody, you don't really know anybody. Black actors,
Right.
man.
Black actors. Yeah, gotta stick together, man. Yeah. Oh, what a great! I'm telling you right now, that was Wayne Brady's finest moment. I'm telling you. There's like 2 episodes of Chappelle's Show that will be quoted till the end of time. There's that one. Well, 3. There's that one, Rick James, and Prince, of course.
Yes.
So, yeah. That show should be in a time capsule somewhere for everybody to enjoy 1,000 years from now.
Yeah. There's things from the first season, of course, that quote, like the Real World episode or the Make-A-Wish Kid episode as well.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's another topic. That's another 6M right there, kids. So, yeah. Be sure you follow us on socials. You'll know when it's coming. So, as we said before, this movie is killing it. It's uncomfortable for me personally in some moments because, I don't know, I've said this before here on the 6M, but I am a sucker for a happy ending. I like when the good guys win. And very much because of all that, I'm not really in the real world. It is what it is. But man, it takes a long time, Ray, before we see any hint of the good guy winning. And in the end, when he's surrounded by everyone in that neighborhood where Alonzo lives, did you know it was going to go the way it went, or did you think it was going to go south and Hoyt was in trouble?
No, when he said, he was offering them, X amount of dollars, first one to pick the gun up and take care of him, I really honestly thought, oh, this is going to end and he's going to kill Ethan and he's going to come across like the good guy. I mean, like the bad guy, I should say. And like the bad guy's going to win the movie this time. Like I really thought there was no shot that Ethan Hawke was going to come across alive in this movie. I was like, oh, he's dead. That's a wrap. I was like, that's it. And so the turn at the end where he's like, no, homie, you got to do your own work. I was like, oh, okay, this is going for the positive.
That's good. I mean, they were sick of Alonzo living there. They were tired of the guy. Hey, kids, Tom Clark here, and did you know the very podcast you're listening to right now is available on boinkstudios.com. B-O-I-N-K, Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com. I mean, that's what did it, right?
Yeah, I think all of it was that this was all kind of come up, and because people were just all kind of tired of him. Like, even when he was sitting there talking to the Latinos at the table, you got the feeling they didn't even like him. They just took his money. They accepted it as a means to an end, but it just felt like by the end, nobody liked this guy.
Yeah, and speaking of that scene where they're playing at the table, the director Antoine Fuqua, as we said, evidently gave instructions to the actors playing these roles without telling Ethan Hawke. And that was done to further confuse him and add to the tension of the scene. So when you're seeing Ethan reacting and not knowing what to say or do, that's legit.
Oh, wow.
It's great.
Yeah, that's great. Because, I mean, definitely throughout that scene, you just don't know what's happening until, like I said, you just look out that window and you see Lonzo's car is gone. It's like, oh no. But yeah, I think it was just like all of these things happening at the same time. Like you could see more and more people were getting sick of him. And then no matter what you thought of Lonzo's character, all the way up to the point where they go back to Roger's house to steal his money, when he kills Roger, because he talked to Roger like he was his friend, and it was just like, well, you don't care about anybody. You don't care about anybody but yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, Phil, we've said it before here a lot on the show. When you have a villain is layered and complex because he doesn't think he's the villain. He thinks he's doing the right thing or doing what has to be done. But the truth is he's a bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, the entire time they're robbing him, Roger's laughing along with him because he trusts them. He thinks they're friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When this movie came out, evidently, many viewers and critics were skeptical of the scenes where Jake smokes marijuana laced with PCP, and Alonzo's explanation of how a cop who didn't take drugs offered to him on the street would be ID'd as police and murdered. David Ayer responded in an interview by holding up a highlighted section of the LAPD's rules and regulations. It stated that officers were allowed to use narcotics in very specific undercover situations, and hewed closely to what Alonzo told Jake. I mean, Ray, even in that scene, I didn't think of it being too far out because I thought this guy is in it up to his neck. He's got to stay safe. And people have to believe that he's one of them so he can get his point across and get the job done. I didn't really balk at that too much, did you?
No, because like I said, I really thought that was part of the character. He was, like I said, going deep undercover. And up to that point, I still thought Denzel was playing an edgy cop. I thought he was still on the right side of the law. I didn't think he was going to turn on Hoyt or any of that stuff. So, like, I thought it was part of the process until, like I said, Ethan's on cloud 9 and he's like, have you ever tried PCP? You ever been wet? I've never tried it. I was like, oh no, this is turning the wrong way.
So kids, if you don't know the story here, and we have yet to give it to you, so we'll do it now. A large part of this character of Alonzo was based on Rafael Perez, an LAPD narcotics officer involved in multiple scandals in the late 90s. And so much so that Denzel grew a beard, or the goatee, in order to emulate the appearance of this guy. Fuqua wanted Washington's character to be seductive and part of a machine and not just a random rogue cop. In Washington's own words, quote, "I think in some ways he's done his job too well. He's learned how to manipulate, how to push the line further and further. In the process, he's become more hardcore than some of the guys he's chasing," end quote. Great quote. Ray, did you know this was based on a real-life character, real-life person?
No, I had no idea. I thought that was, again, just part of the movie. I didn't think that was his true character. I thought that was, I thought it was a character, and it was a real life character that it was a spin from a movie. So that was kind of different. Like, I thought, like, that part you're telling me now, I was like, wow, okay. I didn't know. Like, I really thought that was the whole acting Denzel being Denzel.
Rafael Lopez, was a central figure, the central figure in the LAPD Rampart scandal. He was an officer with the Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums. Yes, that's a thing. Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums sounds like something out of a terrible 80s TV show, but the acronym is CRASH. I guess they needed something to fit that. I don't know. But Perez was involved in numerous crimes and corruption, notably the shooting and framing of Javier Ovando, in addition to the theft and resale of at least $800,000 of cocaine from LAPD evidence lockers. He's accused of being a member of the Bloods and of murdering the notorious B.I.G. I did not know that bit at all. Phil, did you know any of this?
Yeah, I knew of Crash. I heard that before. I've heard of the ties to Crash, but I've never heard that name before.
Crazy. When he was finally arrested, he implicated 70 other Rampart Division officers in various forms of misconduct, ranging from bad shootings to consuming alcohol while on duty. Over 100 convictions were overturned based on Perez's testimony. It's funny, guys, what happens when you get busted. Everybody's going to go down with you because you try not to serve that much time. So,
No. This is bigger than Nino Brown. Bigger than Nino Brown. If I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me.
Taking everybody. Yeah. Oh, we've got interconnected
boy,
tissue.
I never liked him.
Yeah. We got interconnected tissue.
Classic movie line that will never get old. That scene, every time I see it, I die laughing, man. It was him over there.
So good. Oh, my God.
Them, Ms. Hawkins.
By the way, kids, you guessed it. New Jack City is available in the archives. Go check it out. So, yeah, man, because once you bust these guys and they go down, anything they've done is overturned. It's what, fruit of the poisonous vine, right? I mean, of course, everybody that they locked up are getting out. Holy Lord. Imagine how many people got out that probably should have been in prison. Is that crazy?
Or shouldn't have been in there.
Well, that's fair, or shouldn't have been. Absolutely. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, he's a bad dude. I'm just saying, he was released in July 24th, 2001 due to a plea bargain, released and placed on parole, and then he pled guilty to new charges resulting from the shooting of Javier Ovando, 2 felony counts, 1 conspiracy to violate Ovondo's civil rights, possessing a firearm, and multiple other things in 2001. And then in October of 2006, pleaded no contest to a felony count of perjury before the Torrance Superior Court. Man, this thing just keeps going on. And the notorious B.I.G. Link here, Ray, is crazy. I didn't know any of that. Did you know any of this at all, Ray? Had you heard any of this?
Zero. What you're telling me right now, I'm like, wow, really? Like, I had no idea. No idea.
Well, I knew the connection to the Bloods. I knew that I knew the story behind some of that because I believe some of it is covered in a documentary around Biggie's death and the connection to Suge, and of course Suge is a Blood. So yeah, I knew some of that, but I didn't. If you asked me the guy's name, I wouldn't have been able to come up with his name.
Yeah, and there was actually a 2018 film based on all this called City of Lies. So there was actually a movie based on this, on the Rampart scandal.
Wow, I did not know this at all.
Crazy.
Crash was a big thing at one point, especially during like the crack epidemic. That's how I knew of the name Crash.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense actually. I mean, guys, we're going to hope that this is all this sounds bad, but man, Training Day is so bad in terms of, the terrible things this guy did to people. Like, Ooh, man, I can't imagine if a third of this really happened. My God.
I mean, this was like the tip of the iceberg. This was all him attempting to save himself. This is all stuff he had done in an attempt to save himself. This isn't covering any of the stuff he did before that.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he was basically protecting himself. He had the gambling debt at the casinos, and he got into an argument with the Russians.
Phil, did we need to see that, by the way? Is it okay that we didn't see that?
What, him getting killed at the end?
No. The Russian part with like the weekend before.
No, I don't think we needed to. I think that it added to his mystique that we didn't see any of that stuff, because we see him in control until the very end of the movie. I think if you see him lose it or see him in desperation, then it kind of ruins the tension that they're building for the entire movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Ray, you agree with that? Or would you like to have seen what happened? Maybe a flashback or something?
I mean, if they would have just ended where he leaves the casino, shoots the Russian, and then they say, okay, the following week, and then it continues from there, you say, okay, there's something that happened there, and, he's probably in some hot water. But they explained it pretty good. So it was kind of like, okay, now I know why he's in such desperate needs to get money.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was bad news from top to bottom, and let's take a moment to talk about his costuming, how awesome he looks. It looks like gear, like you would like for a comic book film. He's got both pistols under each arm. Like, I'm sure that's probably not regulation, LAPD, but the trench coat, the cross around his neck, or the thing around his neck and everything, the emblem, like, dude, and the badge and everything too, right? The way it's on a chain. I mean, dude, he looks great, right? Doesn't he? Doesn't he just look awesome in this movie? You got to admit.
He fit the mold to a T. Like, he just came across like that was crazy. And now he pulled the badge out and he was like, if you kill me, you know what that smells like when you kill a cop? It smells like pine oil.
Yeah, the gas chamber.
The gas chamber. They put you in the gas chamber. The gas chamber smells like pine oil. I was like, wow.
Man. Are we okay with the ending, Phil? Are you okay with the way the ending played out? Or should it have gone down another way? Are you good with how it came up at the end?
Yeah. I mean, I also want to point out, like you said, with his whole outfit and everything, man,
mm-hmm.
he's wearing a kufi, isn't he? At the beginning of the movie, isn't he wearing a kufi over his head?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Which goes back to the Hawke line, man. Wearing a kufi don't mean that he's right.
That's good.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think you needed to see him get his comeuppance for sure. Because you don't want this idea that he got away. Because of course he does. Jake gets away with the money, shoots him in the ass on the way out. But yeah, I think he needed to get his comeuppance because he had done so many things in the movie that you didn't want to think that there was a possibility that he could somehow get out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he didn't. I mean, it's a gruesome way to go out, but you know what? He didn't afford any leniency to anybody else he ever took out. I mean, in the end, he couldn't escape his fate. I mean, he didn't even have a prayer, right? I mean, oof.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I mean, killing Roger is really the worst thing he does in the entire movie. And I mean, yeah, Roger is seemingly a dirty cop like him as well, but I think there's significance to the idea that Roger was out. He had his whole thing figured out. He had his whole nest egg in his house, and he was so close to retirement. He was so close to life outside of any of this stuff, and he took it away from him.
Mm-hmm. And he tells him, he said, don't cry for him. And like he sold drugs to kids. He was the guy. He was the one doing this. He killed and hurt a lot of people. But I'm like, this coming from you? Like,
yeah, it definitely felt like no honor among thieves kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like even this guy that had done bad things and he had gotten out of life, like, which also kind of mirrors Alonso's fate as well. Like, you always get got at some point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. But yeah, it just felt like in that moment, like this guy was harmless. Like this guy was in his home. He was in retirement.
And all that money underneath the floorboards of his house. Jeez. 4 million? 3 million? Wasn't it 3 million, I think? Or 4 million? I can't remember.
I can't remember the exact amount, but they of course cut it, and we got Jeff. That was the guy on his team that was played by notorious bad guy. um,
Yeah.
Jeff is just like, nope, I ain't got no problem with that.
Yeah. 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 We did mention Tom Berenger. Harris Yulin as Doug Roselli. He was one of the three wise men. Raymond J. Barry as Lou Jacobs. Again, three wise men. Cliff Curtis as Smiley. Charlotte Ayana as Lisa. And we also have Nick Chunlin as Tim. Jamie P. Gomez as Mark. Raymond Cruz as Sniper. And Noel Guglielmi as Marino.
Very small cast because, again, most of this movie focuses around those two guys for most of the movie. But yeah, I think Smiley in particular, he's always been one of my favorite characters in the movie. Just like the way he talks and just like his thick mustache. Just Smiley's great.
He is great. Yeah. I like him a lot. And he's done other things as well with, he was with Three Kings. He was in Collateral Damage, Live Free or Die Hard. New Zealand actor, by the way. I did not know that. So there you go. So we're okay with the story. Everything's good. And we know that, again, he met his demise in the end. Is there anything about this movie, Ray, that maybe not had a problem with? Or is anything that kind of stayed with you? Anything that bothered you? Maybe not just in a bad way, in a good way. Anything that you take from this movie? Like, what's something that sticks out for you in this movie, man?
The part, I guess, that sticks out the most is, how like he had that whole little community on lock, and that part kind of bothered me because it was like, this is my area, I run this area, and this is, they all know who's the king around here, so to speak. And it was like, all right, that was a little too much. One thing I was thinking at the end, it would have been kind of funny had he did get away with everything, killed Hoyt, somehow cleared things up with the Russian, and then there was a training day too. I always told my friends after that movie, I said, how crazy would it have been if he, like somehow he survived that whole thing.
I've always been of the belief, even if he got the money, the Russians were going to kill him anyway.
Because he crossed him. You can't do that.
Yeah, I've always felt like they were going to kill him anyway. Maybe they just weren't going to kill him in as violent fashion, but I think he still had to go.
He had a deadline with the money. He had to have the money by a certain time, like by midnight, right?
Right, but I think even if he would have got the money to them by his deadline, I think he still would have died. I think they still would have killed him. But yeah, the only thing I've kind of bumped it into every time I see it is after the incident with Smiley and he gets away. And I mean, of course, that's all believable how he gets away. What a what a turn of events! What a coincidence that helped him get out of that situation.
Yeah, that wallet. Yeah,
sheer luck. But he gets out of that situation, and then he takes a bus all the way to Lonzo's house, and he walks through this terrible neighborhood and goes to his house unfazed. Like, yeah, that's kind of a little bit unbelievable. They knew he was a cop and everything.
He doesn't get attacked, doesn't get mugged, nothing.
Nothing. He goes into this terrible neighborhood. Like I said, he took the bus there.
And did you see him pay for the bus? He just got on the bus.
All right, so look, I will play devil's advocate and I will counter with this. Once people in the neighborhood saw where he was walking, they saw his eyes, they saw the look on his face. I think they knew it was about to go down. And honestly, who would have warned Alonzo? They'd be like, all right, kid, go get him. That's kind of what I took from that.
Yeah, maybe. Because I mean, early in the movie, of course, we saw the signals and them sending the birds in the air because Lonzo's coming.
Right.
But I guess I always assumed when he came back, like they wouldn't go, oh man, narcs are back, police are back. But maybe they thought because he's connected to Lonzo, don't touch him. I don't know.
That's a good call too. Yeah. Phil, could we have imagined a sequel, or did this movie end the way it was supposed to?
No, I didn't need a sequel. I thought that this was a perfect one-off movie. It didn't need another movie.
So, since it didn't get a sequel, gentlemen, let's talk about the ill-fated television spinoff. Who watched this show? Because I did not. Did anybody watch it?
I did not watch it. Wasn't one of the Wayans brothers in it?
Let's see. So, a CBS television series, they mention Alonzo in the show, and it is Bill Paxton with Justin Cornwell as the two main leads. but I do not see a Wayans brother mentioned.
Oh, I'm thinking of the spinoff of the Mel Gibson movie, Lethal Weapon. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't catch it. The late great Bill Paxton, by the way, kids. I didn't catch this show.
As soon as you said it, I said, of course, Bill Paxton's in it.
Yeah, it's. I didn't catch. Phil, did you see any of the show?
No.
Yeah, apparently it wasn't. I'm guessing wasn't received very well. At 13 episodes, and that was the end of that.
What is it? What is it with this directing and actor duo that CBS makes a CBS spinoff of their movie? There's a spinoff of Equalizer as well.
Very true. Yeah, but at least the Equalizer began as a TV show.
Yeah, but
I get it.
Strange spinoff with Queen Latifah as the leading role.
Are you suggesting Latifah should have been in Training Day? Is that what you're telling me?
What a strange movie that would have been. Or spinoff.
I know, right?
Queen Latifah driving around with some young protege in the passenger seat. What a strange show that would be.
Not to mention the fact that, much like Denzel, Queen Latifah is a very pretty individual. So imagine her being hardcore and shooting people in the face. It's hard for me to imagine that.
We got that and set it off. Set it off as a classic movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this is from February 2nd to May 20th, 2017. 15 years after the events of the film, the series follows Officer Kyle Craig, portrayed by Justin Cornwell, as he infiltrates the LAPD Special Investigations Section, SIS, which they mentioned in the film, by becoming a partner with the morally ambiguous detective Frank Rourke, played by Bill Paxton, whose off-the-books record has attracted the attention of the LAPD. So apparently, all the stuff that Alonzo did didn't set off any alarms, but this other guy did. So yeah, nice, I suppose. Julie Benz was also in this. Katrina Law was in it as well. Drew Van Acker, Christina Vidal, Lex Scott Davis, and Marianne Jean Baptiste was in this. Her I know, but some of these other folks, I don't know if I know them from anything else. So yeah, it just goes to show you, kids, even if you've got a high-profile movie, does not necessarily guarantee you a hit with a spinoff, especially when you can't get the original cast involved. So there you have it. Should we do anything in the future, Ray, with Training Day, or just let it be?
Let it be. That's a classic. It's not broke, don't fix it. I feel like that was a treasure movie, and to have any type of reboot would be just you can't mess with it.
Wasn't there rumors that they were going to remake it at one point?
So, prequel, which we haven't touched on February 28th, 2022, a prequel named Training Day, Day of the Riot, started production in California.
It's still happening?
Surprise. That's all I've got on it at the moment. I don't know if it's still moving forward, but it's been over a year now, and I haven't heard anything else about it.
Yeah.
It could be that it's been stopped. I don't know.
I'm assuming Day of the Riot means it's going to somehow focus around the LA riots and all of the history around that.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know. 2
days before the verdict of the Rodney King trial and the associated LA riots. But dude, who do you even cast? I mean, Ethan Hawke's character won't be in it, but who in the world would you... Oh, leave it alone. Yeah, geez, I don't get it. Well, kids, there you have it. There's Training Day. Classic flick. Really, really good movie. If you want to see one of the greatest actors of our time and of all time, you go watch this movie and you'll see Snoop Dogg. I'm just kidding. You'll see Denzel. But Ray, let's put a button on this, my friend. Give me your last word on Training Day.
First time you see Denzel in a different light. First time you see the diversity, because don't want to sound like a broken record. Up to that point, Denzel had played this nice savior, come to the rescue type of character. And it was just nice to see him doing something really, really different. Edgy movie, on your feet. This isn't a movie that you could stop and grab popcorn because you would have missed such major parts of the movie. This was like an attention grabber, must see definitely. And I'll leave you with, let me see that warrant again.
Yeah. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, incredible movie, influential movie. We've seen so many things, either parodied this thing from the Dave Chappelle episode that we mentioned, little scrappy video as well that is also a play off of the Training Day movie. Very influential movie. Huge part of Denzel's career. I just can't imagine not seeing this movie at this point in 2023. Just such a popular movie at the time it came out. But then again, like I was around when the movie dropped, and you just could not go anywhere without hearing about this movie or hearing that sound bite of Alonzo's monologue at the end, which is an all-time great monologue as well. Yeah, just classic movie.
It really is. Yeah, and I still submit there's some youngins out there that haven't seen this. So all you 20-year-olds and under 20 who haven't seen Training Day, if you can handle it, as we said, buckle in, get ready, and hold on to something, because you are in for the ride of your life, man. Excellent flick. Go out of your way to watch it. And if you haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. I guarantee you, if it's been years, it'll punch you in the mouth as it's supposed to in the best way possible. Check it out, kids. And that is Training Day. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.